And picture yourself in this situation. The electricity has been gone for half a day. Your house is getting colder by the minute. Without even thinking, and you gather every blanket you can find, throw them all on your bed and bury yourself underneath. You feel safe, protected, warm enough, but here's something that might shock you: that gut reaction, that survival instinct we all share, could actually end your life. And I'm about to share a number with you that sounds impossible. And 2 out of every 3 people who die from freezing during winter emergencies aren't discovered outside in snowdrifts. They're found inside their houses, in their beds, and wrapped in layers of blankets, surrounded by family members who thought they were doing everything right. How is that even possible? And because there's a danger lurking in your home during a blackout that almost nobody talks about. And it's not coming from the direction you'd expect. Yes, and the air around you is freezing. But that's not the main threat. The real killer is underneath you. That solid, icy surface you're lying on. And your floor is draining heat from your body 25 times faster than the freezing air ever could. And almost everything you've been told about staying alive during a winter failure isn't just incomplete. In many cases, it's downright dangerous. And let me take you back to what happened in Texas during Winter Storm Uri. 246 lives were lost, and the heartbreak of it all is that the majority of those people weren't caught outside in the storm. They were inside. They had shelter. They had blankets, and they did what the news told them to do. They bundled up. They stayed indoors, and still, they froze. The question we have to ask is simple: why? And the answer comes down to a basic misunderstanding about how heat actually works. And most people don't figure it out until it's already too late. And here's the truth about blankets: they don't generate warmth. They're not little heaters. The only thing a blanket can do is trap the heat that your own body makes. And that's where the problem starts. When your house is freezing, your body, which only produces about as much heat as an old light bulb, and maybe 100 watts when you're resting, is in an impossible fight. Heat is escaping through every wall, every window, every ceiling, and especially through the floor beneath you. Your body simply can't keep up, and the techniques that actually keep people alive in these situations aren't the ones you see on TV or hear from well-meaning neighbors. And I've spent time digging through military survival guides and serious emergency preparedness resources to find 9 specific methods that genuinely work when everything else has failed. And these are the strategies that could save your life when the grid goes down. But before we get to solutions, we need to understand why the old approach fails. And your body operates like a tiny furnace. When you're at rest, it puts out somewhere between 80 and 100 watts of thermal energy. And imagine a single incandescent bulb from decades ago. That's your heat output. When you start shivering violently, your body can push that up to maybe 200 and 250 watts. But that's your absolute maximum. That's all the heat you're working with. Now, a blanket creates its magic by forming a pocket of still air around your body. That trapped air holds onto your heat. But when the power goes out and your home starts losing temperature fast, 1 to 2 degrees every single hour, within 12 to 24 hours, and you're looking at life-threatening conditions inside your own living room. Your 100-watt body is battling against walls, windows, ceilings, and floors that are all hemorrhaging your precious warmth straight into the frozen world outside. The numbers just don't add up in your favor. But here's the part that catches everyone off guard: the silent assassin, the ground underneath you. This is basic physics, simple thermodynamics. And cold floors suck heat away from your body 25 times faster than cold air does. You could pile 10 thick wool blankets on top of yourself. But if you're lying on a freezing floor, or even on a mattress with nothing insulating it from below, and you're losing heat faster than your internal furnace can possibly replace it. This is exactly why so many hypothermia deaths happen indoors. And people wrap themselves up thinking they'd created a safe cocoon, but they were slowly freezing from the bottom up. Now that you understand the real danger, and let me show you what actually saves lives. The first major strategy is what I call the survival room approach. And this might be the single most important thing I'm going to teach you today. When the lights go out and your heating system dies, and your first thought is usually to try keeping your entire house warm, that instinct is wrong. Unless you've got an industrial-sized generator and unlimited fuel, and Trying to heat a 2,000 square foot home is impossible. Instead, you need to think like a captain on a damaged submarine. When there's a breach, you don't try to save the whole vessel. You seal off every compartment except one. Here's why this works so well. Let's say your house is 2,000 square feet. A single interior bedroom might be 150 to 200 square feet. That's 10 to 15 times less space. And remember that 100 watts of heat your body makes. Add another person, that's 200 watts. Add a couple of kids, maybe 50 to 70 watts each, and in a big open house that heat just vanishes into thin air. But in a small, sealed room, that combined body heat becomes a legitimate heat source. And here's how you do this the right way. Pick a room in the interior of your house. The best choice is one with no outside walls, and because exterior walls bleed heat directly to the outdoors. Interior rooms protected by other rooms around them, giving you extra layers of insulation. And seal up the door frame using rolled towels or duct tape along the bottom gap to stop air from sneaking in and out. And cover any windows with heavy blankets or plastic sheeting to add another thermal barrier. Bring everyone into that single room. Your combined body heat, and which could total anywhere from 200 to 400 watts, now has a real chance to warm up that smaller volume of air. And this one strategy can stretch your emergency fuel supply from a few days to several weeks, because you're no longer trying to heat an entire house, and you're heating one small survival space. Every other method I'm about to share works exponentially better once you've created your one-room fortress. And now that you've secured your space, let's talk about the indoor shelter trick. This might sound silly at first, pitching a camping tent inside your bedroom, but once you understand the science, you'll realize it's actually brilliant. Think of it like nesting dolls of heat conservation. You've got your cold house. Inside that, and you've got your warmer sealed room. And inside that room, you've got a tent that creates a critical microclimate. Here's the data that changes everything. And when 2 or 3 people sleep inside an enclosed tent, and their combined body heat alone can raise the temperature inside by 15 to 20 degrees compared to the room around them. And so if your sealed room is sitting at a chilly 45 degrees, the inside of that tent can easily hit 60 or 65. And that's the difference between shivering all night, risking serious hypothermia, and actually sleeping comfortably. The science is straightforward, and a tent drastically cuts down the volume of air your body needs to heat. Instead of warming an entire bedroom, and you're only heating a tiny pocket of maybe 30 to 40 cubic feet, and the tent fabric traps that warm air and keeps it from rising to the ceiling where it does you no good. If your tent has a rain fly, definitely use it, and it acts as another radiant barrier, bouncing even more heat back down toward you. Setting this up is easy. Put the tent inside your designated survival room, and for extra efficiency, drape heavy blankets over the top of the tent. This adds another insulation layer and creates dead air space between the tent fabric and the blanket, and everyone sleeps inside. If you don't own a camping tent, no problem. You can build a classic blanket fort. Drape heavy sheets over a sturdy table or a circle of chairs, and the principle is exactly the same. Create the smallest possible airspace for your body heat to warm. And here's a bonus that people often forget. If you've got young kids, and this turns a terrifying emergency into a fun indoor camping adventure. Keeping spirits high matters just as much as keeping the temperature up, and this leads directly to the next critical rule: the ground barrier. This is where most people fail without ever understanding why. Remember that statistic, and the ground steals heat 25 times faster than air. This is called conductive heat loss, and it's the silent killer in every winter blackout. And you can pile 10 heavy wool blankets on top of your body until you can barely breathe. But if your back is pressed against a cold mattress or floor, and you're pumping your precious body heat straight into the ground like water pouring from a broken pipe. To survive, you need ground insulation, and you need way more of it than you'd think. Survival experts measure insulation using something called R-value. For winter survival sleeping, and you typically need an R-value of 4, 5, or even higher. To give you perspective, a standard thin yoga mat only has an R-value of about 0.5, and that's 10 times less protection than you actually need. Here's how you build a proper life-saving ground barrier using stuff you probably already have. Think in layers, and your first layer is a tarp or plastic sheet on the floor. This creates a moisture barrier, because wet insulation is useless insulation. Your second layer is for bulk, and use cardboard, thick stacks of newspapers, or area rugs. Flattened cardboard boxes are amazing insulators because of all the air pockets inside the corrugated material. And your third layer is for comfort and loft. Use couch cushions, foam padding, or multiple folded comforters. Finally, and your fourth layer is your actual sleeping bag, or the blankets you sleep directly on. You want a minimum total thickness of 2 to 3 inches of material beneath you. And here's a quick test to know if you've built enough. Lay down on your setup. If you can still feel the cold from the floor creeping through within 5 minutes, and you don't have enough, add more cardboard or blankets immediately. The ground is not your friend in this scenario, and treat it like an enemy that's actively trying to steal your life energy 1 degree at a time. Next up, let's talk about hot water bottles. This technique is centuries old, and your great-grandmother used it to survive winters before central heating existed. But somehow, we've completely forgotten this simple technology. A hot water bottle placed inside your sleeping bag can stay warm for 6 to 8 hours. In a really well-insulated sleeping bag, and some people report heat lasting up to 12 hours. That's an entire night of supplemental warmth generated from boiling water just one time. Why does this work so well? And it's physics again. Water has an incredibly high heat capacity. It acts like a thermal battery, absorbing massive amounts of energy and releasing it very slowly over time. And a single bottle radiates steady, comforting warmth directly into your core sleeping area while you rest. To do this right, you need a way to heat water, and that means having an alternative heat source like a camp stove, an outdoor grill, or a propane burner. But here's a critical safety warning, and never use these combustion devices indoors without proper ventilation because of carbon monoxide poisoning risk. Heat your water outside or in a well-ventilated garage, and then bring it in. Fill a rubber hot water bottle or a hard plastic Nalgene-style bottle. The water doesn't need to be boiling. In fact, and 140 to 160 degrees is perfect and reduces burn risk. Wrap the bottle in a thick sock or towel, and place it between your thighs or hug it against your stomach. These are areas with high blood flow, which helps transfer that heat efficiently throughout your entire body. And here's a pro tip: place the hot water bottle in your sleeping bag about 10 minutes before you get in to pre-warm the space. And climbing into a toasty warm bed instead of shivering while your body tries to heat up cold fabric makes a massive difference in your ability to fall asleep and conserve energy. And if you don't have a water bottle, you can heat smooth rocks and wrap them in cloth, or even make a rice bag if you have a way to heat it. And ancient technology still works because the laws of physics haven't changed. Now that we've covered your immediate environment and sleep system, and we need to talk about your personal protection, your clothing. This brings us to a protocol called CALDA-R. This isn't just some random acronym, and it's a system developed by the US military specifically to keep soldiers alive in brutal Arctic conditions for decades. If it works in the Arctic, and it'll work in your living room. CALDA-R stands for 6 critical rules. Let's break them down one by one. C stands for keep clothing clean, and this sounds weird in a survival situation. Who cares about dirt, right? But you should. Dirt and body oils clog the microscopic fibers of your clothes and crushing the tiny air pockets that trap heat. Clean clothes insulate far better than dirty ones. Remember, air is what insulates, and fabric is just the structure holding that air in place. O stands for avoid overheating. This confuses people. You're freezing, so why would you avoid getting too hot? And because in a survival scenario, sweating can be a death sentence. If you work up a sweat while moving furniture or setting up your shelter, and that moisture soaks into your clothes, damp clothes lose up to 90% of their insulating ability. Once you stop moving, that sweat cools rapidly, and chilling you to the bone, and you might not be able to generate enough heat to dry out. Vent your layers before you start to sweat, and L stands for wear clothing loose and in layers. Tight clothing restricts blood circulation, which is how heat moves around your body, and it also compresses your insulation layers, reducing their effectiveness. You want loose layers that trap dead air between them, and each layer of trapped air is another barrier against the cold. D stands for keep dry. This is the most critical letter, and wet clothing conducts heat away from your body 25 times faster than dry clothing. You must avoid cotton at all costs. In the survival community, there's a saying, and cotton kills. Cotton absorbs moisture like a sponge and dries incredibly slowly, sapping your heat the entire time. E stands for examine clothing for wear, and check for holes or tears that could let heat escape. And finally, R stands for repair damage immediately, and a small tear in your down jacket can lead to major insulation loss over time. To apply this, use the 3-layer system the military uses, and your base layer should be moisture, wicking material like wool, silk, or synthetic fabrics, never cotton, to pull sweat away from your skin. Your middle layer is insulation, and think heavy fleece, wool sweaters, or down vests to trap body heat. Your outer layer is a shell designed to block wind and water, and this system has kept humans alive at -40 degrees. It'll keep you alive in a frozen house. The next method is understanding your body as a machine, and the caloric furnace. Think of your body literally as a furnace. A furnace can't produce heat without fuel. In extreme cold, and your body burns significantly more calories just to maintain your core temperature of 98.6 degrees. And here's the data that should change how you stock your emergency pantry. Your normal daily caloric need might be 2,000 to 2,500 calories, but with cold exposure and mild activity, that jumps to 3,600 or even 4,000 calories. And the U.S. military Arctic ration standard is 4,500 calories per day. That's nearly double what you normally eat, and every calorie you consume generates heat through metabolism. Digestion itself creates internal warmth, a process called the thermic effect of food, and eating is literally stoking the fire inside you. But not all calories are created equal in a blackout. Fats are the superior survival fuel, and fats provide 9 calories per gram, while carbohydrates and proteins only provide 4. Fat is more than twice as energy-dense. More importantly, fats provide slow, burning, long-lasting energy that keeps you warm through the long winter nights. Stock your pantry with these high-heat foods, and peanut butter packs nearly 600 calories per 100 grams and requires no refrigeration. Nuts are incredible shelf-stable energy bombs, and chocolate is excellent not just for calories but for a critical morale boost when spirits are low. Hard cheeses can last days without a fridge, and beef jerky provides high protein. Here's a pro tip: eat a high-fat snack right before you go to sleep. Your body will digest it throughout the night and generating internal heat while you rest. You rely on blankets to trap heat, but you must rely on calories to create it. You need both to survive. And now let's talk about generating heat externally. Everything we've discussed so far is about conserving the heat you already have. But sometimes, and especially in severe cold snaps, that's not enough. You need to actually add heat to the equation. For indoor use, you need specific safe equipment, and the gold standard for this is the Mr. Heater Buddy series. These are catalytic heaters designed specifically to be safe for indoor use. To give you a power comparison, a single candle produces about 75 to 85 BTUs of heat. Your body produces about 300 BTUs, and a portable buddy heater on its high setting produces 9,000 BTUs. That's the heat equivalent of having 30 people, or over 100 candles in your room. And these heaters have critical safety features you absolutely must have, and they have a low oxygen sensor that automatically shuts the unit off if oxygen levels in the room drop too low, and they have tip over protection that cuts the gas if the unit gets knocked over. However, and this is a life or death warning, and indoor safe does not mean no ventilation needed. Anytime you burn fuel, you consume oxygen and produce potential byproducts. You must crack a window slightly, just an inch, and to ensure fresh airflow. Carbon monoxide is the invisible killer in winter blackouts. For fuel planning, and realize that one small 1-pound propane cylinder will run a portable heater for about 5 to 6 hours on the low setting. If you're facing a 3-day blackout, and you need to stock at least 10 to 15 of these cylinders. Combined with the one-room strategy we discussed earlier, and a single propane heater can keep your survival room toasty warm while the rest of the house freezes. Finally, we must discuss the death traps, and I need to be brutally honest with you about what actually kills people during these events, because the same tragic mistakes happen in every single blackout. And during Winter Storm Uri in Texas, 12% of the deaths weren't from the cold itself, but from carbon monoxide poisoning, and dozens more were hospitalized in Tennessee during the January 2024 storm for the same reason. and Nashville reported multiple fatalities simply because people were desperate to stay warm and used unsafe methods. And here are the specific killers you must avoid at all costs. First, never use your gas oven for heat. Your kitchen oven wasn't designed to be a space heater, and when run continuously with the door open, gas ovens can malfunction, produce incomplete combustion, and rapidly fill your home with carbon monoxide. And health departments specifically warned that this is a primary cause of poisoning deaths. It's simply not worth the risk. Second, generators indoors. And this should be common knowledge, yet it happens every year. Running a generator inside your home, your basement, or even in your garage with the door open can kill you in minutes. Carbon monoxide from generators is extremely concentrated and deadly. The rule is simple, and generators go outside, at least 20 feet away from any window, door, or vent. Third, charcoal grills. Never under any circumstances, and bring a charcoal grill inside to heat your home or cook food. Charcoal produces massive amounts of carbon monoxide as it burns. It's a death sentence in an enclosed space. And fourth, running your car in the garage. Even with the garage door open, exhaust fumes can accumulate in the garage and seep into the main house. And people have fallen asleep in their cars trying to stay warm and never woke up. Fifth, unattended candles. While they provide a small amount of heat and light, and candles are the #1 cause of house fires during blackouts. If you fall asleep while a candle is burning and it gets knocked over, and you could wake up to a tragedy worse than the cold. If you use them, extinguish them before you sleep. The survival rule is non-negotiable. If it burns fuel, and it needs ventilation or it goes outside. And to protect yourself from the invisible killer, you must have a battery-powered carbon monoxide detector. CO is colorless and odorless and tasteless. By the time you feel the symptoms, dizziness, headache, nausea, you may already be too impaired to escape. And surviving the cold means absolutely nothing if you poison yourself trying to stay warm. 246 people died in Texas, and 65% of them died from hypothermia. Most of them were found indoors, wrapped in blankets, believing they were doing everything right, and they didn't understand the physics of heat loss. They didn't know about the ground stealing their life force. They didn't know that blankets only trap heat, and they don't create it. But now you know. You know the strategy. You know to seal yourself into one interior room to conserve heat, and you know to build a ground barrier to stop conductive heat loss. You know that your body is a furnace that needs high-calorie fuel to burn, and you know that a simple indoor tent can raise the temperature by 15 to 20 degrees, creating a life-saving microclimate. And you know the Kaldor principle that has kept soldiers alive in the Arctic, and you know exactly what not to do. Because carbon monoxide kills just as dead as hypothermia, and the next blackout is coming. It might not be this winter. It might not be in your state. But the power grid is fragile. Storms are intensifying globally. And the question isn't if you'll face a winter power outage. The question is when. And when that dark, freezing night comes, you'll have a choice. And you can either be the family huddled under blankets, shivering and wondering why you're still cold. Or you can be the family who knew the truth and executed these proven methods, slept warmly through the night, and woke up safe the next morning. The choice is yours. Stay warm. Stay prepared.